Welcome, dear listeners. This is Dr. Alok Tripathi, a pharmacologist having 14 years of teaching and research experience, belongs to India. Today I'm going to teach you a topic known as cell injury, and in that we will discuss about the types of cell injury. If you will see the types of cell injury is been broadly classified into two major categories. One is a reversible cell injury and other category is irreversible cell injury. If we will talk about the reversible cell injury, we will see about if the cell after an injury is capable to regain its physiological condition again, then that has been called as a reversible cell injury. However, the other type, which is a irreversible cell injury, if cell is not able to regain its physiological condition or normal homeostasis, then it has been considered as irreversible cell injury. Moreover, reversible cell injury and irreversible cell injury further been classified into several subtypes. If we will talk about the reversible cell injury are of further classified into two different categories. One is cell swelling and another is fatty changes. Whereas irreversible cell injury further been classified into autolysis and heterolysis, necrosis and apoptosis. So today we are going to see one by one different types of cell injuries. If we will talk about cell swelling, which is a kind of a reversible type of cell injury, you will observe that if there is it results due to the failure of energy dependent ion pumps. Our cell membrane, usually your cell membrane contain ion channels, and these ion channels are responsible for maintaining the ionic balance in extracellular fluid and intracellular fluid. Moreover, these ion channels, while maintaining the ionic balance, with that it also carries the fluid content inside the cell and outside the cell. As the research suggests that if there is a deposition of sodium is there, then there is always be deposition of water. What exactly happens in cell swelling, which is a kind of a reversible cell injury, you will observe that this ionic pumps, which is energy dependent, are failed to work, and because of that reason you will observe that the quantity of or ionic balance of sodium get disturbed over there. The sodium ions are found to be more deposited inside the cell, and it is very well known fact that if sodium get deposited, it result into deposition of water. And if you will talk about there is a deposition of water, you can observe that suppose this is what a cell, normal cell, and if there is a deposition of water over there in the cell, you will observe that there is an increase in the size of the cell, which has been called as cell swelling. Moreover, it is very well known fact that if there is a deposition of water occurs, it is being considered as edema, which is also been called as swelling. And if there is a deposition of water occurs in the cell, it has been called as cell swelling. Moreover, if you will observe, if there is a deposition of water is there, you can be able to observe that the water will bring with it a amount of weight. And it is very well known fact that if there is more fluid, more will be the weight. If it is inside the cell's weight will increase. And if whole and soul, we will talk about a particular organ where this reversible cell injury occurs, then you will observe that there is an increase in the organ weight occurs, that you will very commonly observe in most of the diseases like acute renal failure, like other conditions where you can observe that because of cell swelling, which is a reversible cell injury, there is an increase in the weight of organ occurs. Whereas the reversible cell injury further been classified into another category which is known as fatty changes. If you will talk about fatty changes, it occur due to hypoxic injury. Hypoxia is a condition where there is an decrease in the oxygen supply to the cell, due to which the cells are not able to complete its or fulfill its metabolic needs. So if there is a hypoxia, metabolism is not able to done by the cell, which result into decrease in the ATP formation. When there is an toxic or metabolic injury occurs over there, you will observe that it result into deposition of, if suppose cells are not able to metabolize, then what will happen with the nutrients that we are taking? It get deposited. Small and large lipid vacuoles are deposited in the cytoplasm of the cell. But you just imagine, suppose this is what a cell which I had drawn earlier with the, for giving the example of cell swelling. You can see over here, just consider this is what a normal cell earlier. Now there is a small vacuoles are been deposited over there, lipid vacuoles. Because of hypoxic condition, cells is not able to utilize it for the energy purpose. Now what will happen? Slowly you will observe that these lipid molecules completely grab the cell. So do you really think that even after that cell are able to do its homeostasis, are able to take and do the exchange with the extracellular fluid and intracellular fluid? It becomes very difficult. And that is how you will observe that if a cell has been gone through the fatty changes, it could result into cellular injury. Yes, a type of cellular injury is fatty changes will occur into the cell. And yes, we can manage it if we can increase the metabolism, and if we can result into breakage of the lipid vacuoles, we can reverse and regain the cell's original condition. Now we will talk about the some morphological characteristics which are being included over there when the cells are going through the reversible type of cellular injury. You will observe that the plasma membrane bleeding and loss of microvilli will occur. Mitochondria, mostly time you will observe that as cell will swell over there, mitochondria will also swell because they are not able to do its function, that is metabolism. You can observe that there is an ER dilation will also occur, and the body to which these kind of cellular injury will occur, you will observe that there is an increase in the quantity of eosinophils will observe, and the condition is known as eosinophilia. These are what some morphological characteristic changes you will observe during the reversible cell injury. However, if we will talk about the irreversible cell injury, I already told you about it, when the cell is not able to regain its normal physiological condition, which is there before the injury, then this type of injury has been called as irreversible cell injury. And if you will see about the irreversible cell injury, broadly they are being classified into three different categories. Autolysis and heterolysis mostly been considered in a single type of irreversible cell injury. Another one is necrosis, and the last but not the least, apoptosis. So we will discuss them in detail. First, we will talk about the autolysis. The name itself suggests, if you will break this word auto and lysis, you will observe that auto means self, lysis means breakdown or digestion. That is what autolysis means, self digestion. we are very well known about the fact about the lysosome, which is a cellular organelle present inside the cell. What its function? Lysosomes are also been called as suicidal bags. Probably we all had discussed and know about it when we had studied about the cell topic. Lysosome, which is a suicidal bag, a cellular organelle which is present inside the cell, is having the function that it can digest the faulty proteins. Every cell of our body used to synthesize 1,000 different types of proteins. There are chances that when they are synthesizing these 1,000 different types of proteins, sometimes they will prepare a faulty protein. And this faulty protein could result into generation of oxidative stress and cellular injury. Chances are there. To prevent the body from these kind of faulty proteins or enzymes, what exactly cell does? Cell has a lysosome. Lysosomes are having number of hydrolytic enzymes and oxidative enzymes over present. Whenever a faulty protein is been prepared or digested protein is there, it will go to the cell, and cell is having lysosomes. Lysosome will release its hydrolytic enzymes, and that result into breakdown of that protein. Now, what exactly happens in case of autolysis? Just take an example. This is what your cell. And if you will talk about, this is what lysosomes, which is present over there. It's not only about the faulty protein, even your WBC, how it digests the foreign bodies or any foreign material has been digested by any of the cell of your body. It's because of lysosomes. Now, what exactly happens during the injury? This cell membrane of, this is what the cell membrane of lysosomes, which will restrict this hydrolytic enzyme towards only lysosomes. This particular cell membrane, more precisely lysosomal membrane, is being digested or is being broken down, and because of this reason, these hydrolytic enzymes which result into liberation over there, which if suppose this hydrolytic enzyme will come outside the lysosomes, they start doing the breakdown of any of the protein. And all of us knows about that your cell membrane is made up of phospholipid, where proteins are embedded, and these proteins are having several roles: receptor, ion channels, transporter. There are several roles they do have. So what will happen? This hydrolytic enzyme do the digestion of these proteins, and once it will do the digestion of this protein, that result into breakdown of cell membrane, which result into cellular injury. Now, this autolysis, which will commonly be observed to the tissues where the hydrolytic enzymes quantity will be higher, not commonly with the other organs. Okay, like pancreas and gastric mucosa, where you will have higherly observe this autolysis type of cellular injury. Whereas intermediate quantity of hydrolytic enzymes are present over the liver, over kidney, over heart, and least you will observe over the fibrous tissue. So where you will observe the higher chances of autolysis? At the pancreas and gastric mucosa. And to the heart, liver and kidney, you will find a mixed kind of the reaction that you will observe over here. The similar about heterolysis that I told you about it, which is also a part of autolysis. Heterolysis, which is another type of irreversible cell injury, which is a disintegration of cell by the hydrolytic enzyme, liberated the inflammatory mediators like neutrophils. Neutrophils are the inflammatory mediators cells which are responsible for the digestion of foreign bodies, which they are able to do because of the hydrolysis. It's because of any bacteria is entering into your body which has been digested by the neutrophils. How it will do? It will do because of hydrolysis, because it releases the enzyme, hydrolytic enzyme, to do the digestion of your foreign material. Now, there are two more specific type of irreversible cell injury which we need to discuss in detail. One is known as necrosis. Now, if you will talk about necrosis, it is what a series of morphological changes in a cell occur which are lethally cell injured. It is something like cell killing. Whereas apoptosis, which has been very commonly known as, and in the scientific community it has been called as programmed cell death. We will discuss in the next slide in detail about necrosis and apoptosis. So necrosis is the type of cell death which is commonly associated with if there is a loss of integrity of the cellular membrane and leakage of cellular content occurs over there due to dissolution of cells or cellular membrane, which exactly occurs due to degradative enzymes action, which result into digestion of cellular membrane. Or in the other word, if I want to define necrosis, necrosis is a spectrum of morphological changes that occur due to cell death or in cell death in living due to progressive degradation action of enzyme on lethally injured cells. Means cells are lethally injured, and because of that reason the degradative enzymes which are been present inside the cells get activated, and they are responsible for further digestion of cellular contents. The cellular content leaking will also occur over there, and that ultimately result into cell death, and that type of cell death is known as very well known as necrosis. Okay, so next is how necrosis occurs. You will observe that this is what a normal cell, and this normal cell is been reversibly injured. Then it will, if it is reversibly injured, it will recover and it will regain its normal physiological functions, and then it has been called as normal cell. Now, what happens exactly when there is a reversible cell injury occurs? As I earlier told you, some morphological changes that occurs inside the cell, that ER swelling is there, that is what endoplasmic reticulum swelling, and mitochondria is also swelled over there. This is what a characteristic that you will observe with the a reversible reversibly injured cells, which can recover its normal physiological function and become a normal cell again. Now, what happens if suppose this reversible cell injury will further progress, or there is some lethal injury will occur over the cell? What exactly will happen because of that reason? Now, what will happen? There is an mitochondria which has been swelled over there. You will observe that this becomes an amorphous in densities. You will observe that the digestive enzymes are being leaked over there, and these digestive enzymes which are being leaked over there, they are responsible for the further digestion of cellular contents. You are able to see that the cell membrane, the figure is been clearly been suggesting you that cell membrane is damaged. There is a bleed over the cell membrane will occur. You are able to see that the cellular content, you are able to see here mitochondria is about to release from here. You are able to see the myelin fibers can be about to release from over here. You are able to see that there is a nucleus, there is a cellular organ that can be leaked over there. And there is a breakdown of cell membrane occur exactly in necrosis. The commonest feature that you will observe in case of necrosis is what you are able to see here, a purple cell, which is nothing but inflammatory cells. This is what a granulocytes, neutrophils. So it means that if somebody is suffering from necrosis, it is always associated with the inflammation. However, this necrosis are of further been classified into 4 different categories. One is a coagulation, another was is a liquefaction, gaseous and fat. These are what actually the changes, different types of changes that you will observe in a cell when they are goes for the necrosis or they are become dead. As far as coagulation is concerned, you will observe that it occurs if there is a cell death occur due to hypoxia condition or due to lack of blood or oxygen supply towards the cell. If it occurs and because of that, if cell will go for the necrosis, it will go through the necrosis because of the coagulation. What exactly happened? The name itself suggests coagulation, where the coagulation will occur. Where exactly coagulation will occur? It occur exactly over the denaturation or coagulation of proteins. Which protein? Protein which are present over the cell or inside the cell. More specifically, I have to call, then it is over the cell membrane. If this will occur, what will be there? You will observe that the basic cell outline preserve over there. Nuclei is been lost. If you will see the appearance wise cell, how it look like, it is gross, pale in color, dry, you will observe. If you want to see this coagulation, the best example, if I have to tell you, it is what an infraction. More probably you heard about myocardial infraction. What is myocardial infraction? If suppose the supply of oxygen towards the tissue, cardiac tissue has been less, then the cardiac tissue get damaged, which is highly perfused tissues, then that is known as myocardial infraction, and it is one of the type of necrosis. Liquefaction, which is another type. If I have to give a best example of a new liquefaction, you can see pneumocytes, where you will observe that because of some bacterial or fungal infection over there, you will find that there is an enzymatic, there are a number of enzymes which are getting activated that result into the tissue alteration, and the viscous liquid will be deposited over there. More commonly, it has been considered as an pus-like structure will be present over there at a particular site. Another type of necrosis is caseous, which is very commonly been observed in the case of tuberculosis. The lung tissue which had suffered from the tuberculosis, you will observe the caseous. It is something like cheese in color. If you will see cheese, it is white and something pale yellow or faint yellowish color you will observe over there, creamish color. That color of tissue will appear. It is majorly because of lack of oxygen and the calcium alteration in the cell. These are the two main characteristics. Because of that, the necrosis is been caseous necrosis can be occur. Another one is the fatty necrosis, which is a focal area of fat destruction over there. It is result due to the activated pancreatic lipase will occur over there into the substance of the pancreas. What you will observe in the appearance, if the fatty changes, you will observe in case of necrosis, there is a release of fatty acid combined with the calcium to produce grossly visible chalky white area. Means the area where the necrosis occur, you will observe that it is something chalky whitish color you will observe. This is how necrosis. Now next is apoptosis. As far as apoptosis is concerned, which is also been called as programmed cell death. Apoptosis is a pathway of cell death in which the activate enzyme that degrade the cell's own nuclear DNA and nucleus and cytoplasmic protein too. Plasma membrane of apoptotic cells remain intact. That we had seen earlier in case of necrosis. When I taught you about necrosis, we had seen about in the necrosis, the cellular membrane get dearranged and the cell leaking will start. Cellular content will start to leak. Whereas in case of cell which will go under the apoptosis, you will observe that the cell membrane remain intact over there. However, when there is a breakdown occurs in the cell or apoptosis occurs, there is some fragments of cells are been removing. Just suppose this is what a cell. You just consider this is what a cell. From this, small amount of cell will come over here, and this will have some antigenic property to which your WBC will consider, and phagocytosis they are able to do the phagocytosis, and by that way they will digest the fragments of cell which are coming from the apoptotic cell, and this is how cell death occurs in case of apoptosis. The thing that you will observe over here in case of apoptosis, you will not, because it's not a lethally cell injury, that's why, and there is no alteration in the cellular membrane breakdown, because the process of inflammation will start with the breakdown of cell membrane. The COX pathway will only activate once there is an phospholipid will react with phospholipase to form arachidonic acid. So in case of apoptosis, there is no such thing is happening. There is no breakdown of cell membrane, and that's why inflammatory reaction will not occur. And this is what a major contrast between necrosis and apoptosis that you will observe, that in case of apoptosis there is no inflammatory reaction, whereas necrosis there is an inflammation occurs. The most precise thing that you will observe in case of apoptosis can occur in the normal physiological condition also, and in the pathological condition too. Whereas necrosis is more specifically will occur with the disease condition, not in the normal physiological condition. So as far as apoptosis is concerned, apoptosis occurs with the two major pathways are responsible to have a apoptosis. Cell can go either one of them. One is known as the intrinsic pathway of apoptosis. You are able to see over here, it has been mentioned, intrinsic pathway. Whereas another one is the extrinsic pathway. In my earlier presentation, when I talked about the different etiologies of cellular injury, I told you about some Fas and Fab receptor which has been called as death receptor. There also I told you about that they are responsible for the apoptosis, normal cell death, which will occur even in case of age too. So this is what involved in the extrinsic pathway of apoptosis. So first we will talk about the intrinsic pathway, then we will come to the extrinsic pathway. As per as intrinsic pathway, just imagine cell injuries occur over there, and anything could be there because of that cell injury occurs. There are chances that one individual will have a retardation of growth factor. There are chances that due to some radiation or toxin or generation of free radical, the DNA damage occur in a person individually, or there is a misfolding of protein occurs. See, these all are actually the pathogenic pathways that we will see in my next topic, next video. These all could result into cellular injury. Once the cellular injury will occur, there is one specific protein which is present inside the cell. More specifically, if I have to say, inside the cell, inside the cytoplasm. That is BCL2 family. This is what a protein, actually they are being called as pro-apoptotic proteins. So we do have pro-apoptotic and anti-apoptotic proteins, and the balance of which is responsible for the normal cell. Now because of this cellular injury, BCL2 family get activated and they activated back and Bax protein. You are able to see over here which belongs to a family BCL2. These proteins are responsible for the activation of mitochondria. If you will talk about the mitochondria contains cytochrome C and some other pro-apoptotic protein. Pro-apoptotic protein means the protein which are responsible for the apoptosis. If I have to give an example, the example is caspase protein. Caspase. This caspase cascade is a pro-apoptotic protein which are responsible for the apoptosis. How? The caspase are having a series of enzymes. Caspase is an enzyme, a series of enzymes it is there. Digestive enzymes are there, which is a caspase 3, which is a caspase 6, caspase 9, caspase 8. More precisely, caspase 8, caspase 9, and caspase 3, which involve in the apoptosis process. What will happen exactly? What they do exactly? They will activate the endonuclease, and they will start to, as they are enzyme, they will start to do the breakdown of cytoskeleton, which is responsible for keeping the cell at a cellular organelle at a stagnant position. Now, endonuclease is an enzyme which is responsible for the fragmentation of nucleus or nuclear protein. And because of that reason, you will observe that the nucleus get break down over there. and even cytoskeleton is been broke down over there. And after that you will observe that the phospholipase enzyme will interact and break down the phospholipid over there, so that then individually uh, through the process of exocytosis like condition, the vacuoles of the or smaller vacuoles like structure will come out of from the cells. When we will talk about this, these bodies contain some uh, proteins over its surface which act as a ligand for the phagocytes, or which act as a receptor for the phagocytic cells, and they will bind to the phagocytes which will responsible for the phagocytosis, and by the process of phagocytosis there result into the digestion of the cell, or digestion of the fragments of the cell more precisely. Whereas the another pathway, which is nothing but a death receptor pathway, extrinsic pathway is there, fast fab receptor pathway is there, because of oxidative stress, because of the aging, because of number of blah blah condition which are been there, the body result into activation of death receptors. This death receptor activation directly initiate caspase pathway. It will not going to affect the mitochondrial pathway or intrinsic pathway or any kind of pro-apoptotic protein activation. It directly activates the caspase pathway, caspase 3, 8 and 9, and that result into activation of endonuclease and breakdown of cytoskeleton. And the thing that I taught you earlier, that nucleus breakdown is there, the exocytosis process is there, by which the vacuoles like structures of cells are coming, which has been taken up by the phagocytes to do the phagocytosis, and the cell vacuoles are being digested over there. As far as comparison between necrosis and apoptosis is concerned, you are able to see the cell size. I told you in case of necrosis, there is an enlargement of cell will be there. I told you this. Whereas in case of apoptosis, there is a portion of cell membrane cell is going over there. And this is what shrinkage of cell will be there, reduced in the size of cell will occur over there. If you will see the plasma membrane which has been disturbed in case of necrosis, whereas if you will talk about apoptosis, it will be intact, and you will observe that the cell membrane remain intact in case of apoptosis. Only a particular portion has been removed from a specific place. If you will see about the cellular content, enzymatic digestion will be there, and there is a cellular content is been leak out, you will observe. Whereas in case of apoptosis, you will not observe like this. The cellular content remain being there. If it has been releasing, it's been releasing through the apoptotic bodies. Very commonly you will observe necrosis associated with the inflammation, whereas apoptosis you will not observe inflammation. These are what the different differentiation between the necrosis and apoptosis. All the viewers, thank you very much. I hope you understand the topic in detail. I hope I will soon bring some other new topics which will be helpful for you to understand about the cell and cellular injury. Thank you.